Hello, it is Paulette Downey here with Pride and the Destruction It Brings. So, I have a part one and part two, which I already uploaded to YouTube. Um, the second one, like the first two I did yesterday, the second one that I did at a restaurant and it cut off. And so at that point, I just said no more. I'm going to finish the rest of it today. It's interesting because I had the talking points. I always have the talking points for these prior to actually getting on video and giving the message. I never knew. I did not think that this one was going to be as long as it is. But pride is a big topic, and I could go on longer than what um, I plan to go on. I'm going to finish it up, hopefully, succinctly in this time. But it definitely needed this time because pride, it's a really big thing. And I mean, I'm only talking about pride, like I'm talking about pride and I'm just talking about certain aspects of it. I haven't delved deep into the many aspects of pride that there is. So I'm going to finish off what I was saying yesterday evening. I was talking about going to the IRS yesterday. I had to see about something there, and I I asked the bus driver. I got on the bus, asked the bus driver if he could let me off at the the stop because I'm still um, unfamiliar with where everything is, and I'm not someone who like directions. It's something that I'm really not good at until I really master a place. So I gave him the address. I gave him the number of the building, the name, everything, and he said he knew. Like he said, he was very confident. The bravado, the way he said it, confidence, bravado. Yeah, I know where that is. And so he ends up dropping, like telling me to get off at a stop, which wasn't even close to the place that I was looking for. So the place that I was looking for, the number was completely wrong, but I trusted him because he was the bus driver. And the even the name of the agency was wrong. So it was, and he said he knew, and he said it with confidence that he knew what he was talking about, but he didn't know what he was talking about. And so my point here is that a lot of times people talk with bravado and with sure, like they're so sure of themselves that they know what they're talking about when they're talking about things, when they're talking about people. And they give you that impression, that illusion that they know what they're talking about when they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, and they're completely ignorant to what it is they are talking about. The reason why I say this is that people are going to talk about you regardless. There are going to be people out there who are going to act as if they know you. They're going to talk about you to people as if they have the full script on you, like you and them have been, best buddies, and they know every intimate aspect of your life when they know absolutely nothing about you. And they're going to spread that, and they're going to say, I know, not even I think, but I know. Some people do say I think, but some people say I know because. So people are going to be people. They are going to say what they're going to say about you. They're going to spread stuff like wildfire about you as if they know what they're talking about. So you have to decide for yourself, are you going to live to please people, or are you going to live to please God? So, like I was saying about pride, on the other spectrum, the pride of insecurity, the pride of uncertainty, the pride of, of your predicate, pride of your pedigree, pride of your education, pride of how you speak, pride of how you look, pride of how you talk, pride of your economic status. All of these things, people are going to talk. So my experience, what I was telling you about, say, my marital status and the fact that I don't have children, and that it did bother me because I know, people talk. I had to get to a place in my life where I was comfortable with being who I am, being who God created me, knowing that I come from a creator who created the universe and all of heavens, and it is up to him who decides what his fate is for me. And at the end of the day, it is about pleasing him. It is not about pleasing people. And why put myself in a prison of worrying about what people think about me and what people are saying about me? So I've gotten to the point in my life now where I don't care what people think about me and what they say about me. It's none of my business what people think about me and what they say about me. I cannot stop people from saying what they're going to say about me and thinking what they're going to think about me. I can't stop it. It's none of my business. But I refuse to let it control how I move in this world, how I navigate in this world, what I do and what I don't do. I refuse to be in prison to what other people think about me. And that's what pride on the other spectrum, pride of shame, pride of trying to cover up who you are, pride into the point where you're projecting to be somebody who you're not. You become imprisoned to that. You become imprisoned to what you want people to think you are or who you want them to think you are. And so you are not living from you're not living your authentic life. You're not being your authentic self. You are projecting whatever you think people want you to be. So if people want you to be bubbly, then you're going to be bubbly. If you want people, if someone wants you to come across as intelligent, then you're going to come across as intelligent. So you have 1,000 different characters in this hat, and depending on what environment you're in, or like what you're doing, where you're at, what activities you're doing, you're going to pull that character out of the hat, and you're never yourself, and maybe to the point where you even forgotten who you are because you're so many different people that you probably don't even know who is the real you. And so if I am speaking to you about this, like just be honest with yourself and just, if you, and, like this is for, be honest with yourself and just ask God to help you in this area that you want to be your authentic self, but you just don't know how to be your authentic self because it can be difficult for a person who is living that life to get back to who they are, and maybe you don't know how to be you, but God can help you be the person that he created you to be. But and see, when you are ashamed, when you have shame, when you're walking around with shame, and you don't want people to look at you the way you really are, like you're ashamed of who you are, then oftentimes you could resort to lying, to pretending you're being someone you're not, to not participating in certain aspects of life, because by participating in certain aspects of life, then you have to show up as your authentic self. So to present, to uh, protect that, you're not going to participate in certain things. You're not going to do certain things. You're going to avoid certain situations, because by avoiding those situations, you are not going to be your true, authentic self. So by being your authentic self, it just alleviates so much like it alleviates tension and stress, but it allows you to be who you are. Like you're not looking over your shoulders, wondering, like what is this person thinking? What is that person thinking? You don't care. You're just living your authentic life. And so, and God can't bless you. God can't bless you if you are being somebody else, because he didn't create you to be somebody else. He created you to be you. So he can bless you at the place that you are with yourself, but he can't bless you at a place of being somebody else. He did not create you to be someone else. He didn't create a person who may have a grade 9 education, but is walking around parading as if they have a bachelor's degree in, say, chemistry or something. Like he cannot bless that person with that grade 9 education who's pretending that there's somebody else. Because if you're saying that you have a bachelor's degree in chemistry and you don't, you're not that person. So he can't bless you in that. And I mean, then what ends up happening is, okay, like, yeah, you have this, you're telling the world that you have this the degree in chemistry, and then from that, then one lie, then another lie, then another lie, then another lie, then you have to protect all of the lies, and so then there's another lie. So your life becomes a continuation of lies. Like it's a bunch of falsehoods. And so you are not living your true authentic self. And I mean, at any time, that house of cards that you've built for yourself can just come tumbling down. I mean, because that's basically what you've built at that point, a house of cards. You're just living all these different people's lives, none your own. And so you can't, you're not living for yourself. You're living to impress and to impress other people and to get the approval of other people. And by doing that, you're still not going to get the approval of other people. You're still not going to impress other people. And you know what? In often cases, many people do know the truth anyway. So that's the real interesting thing about facades and pretending you're someone you're not, because depending on the individuals you're dealing with, some people can see right through you. You may not think that they can see right through you, but some people actually can see that you are pretending to be someone you're not, and that you are not the person that you are projecting yourself to be. Many people can actually see that you are a facade. So you are pretending to be somebody that you're not. And many people can see that you're pretending to be somebody you're not. You're probably one of the only people who think you're convincing the world that you are somebody you're not. And that is really the sad thing about shame and trying to cover up who you really are by projecting yourself to be someone that you're not, is that you think that you're fooling the masses when you may be fooling some people, including yourself, but you're not fooling everybody. And so you've got a group of people who can see right through you, and they already know that who you're coming across to be is not who you really are, but you think you're convincing them, and you're not. They're just not letting you know that they're aware that you are not who you are projecting yourself to be. Um, Another example is me being homeless. Um, a lot of people would find being homeless embarrassing. And before being homeless, I myself would have found it embarrassing. When I first became homeless, I did find it a bit uncomfortable. I was embarrassed about it, not completely. I was embarrassed about it, but not completely, not to the point where I didn't share it with people. I mean, I shared it with people who I was comfortable with. I shared it with church members and people who I was comfortable with. I did share it. So it wasn't like I kept it a secret. I didn't flaunt it. I was living in my car at that point, when I was homeless. And I mean, I'm not living in my car now. I don't, like, yeah, I'm not living in my car now, but in the beginning, I was living in my car. Um, and so, yeah, I don't have my car now. But in the beginning, I was living in my car. And so when I actually went from living in my car to living on the streets, um, it became even more obvious because living in your car, you can kind of hide it. You're not carrying things with you. You have all the essential things that you need. Um, and for me, that would be skincare, skincare, and even things like makeup and clothing, and you have the things that you need to care for yourself the way that you would care for yourself. Um, so it, like I said, it's not as obvious. You can move in such a way, like you can drive wherever you want to go, and like when you're out and about, no one would know when you're on the streets that you're homeless. But when you don't have any form of transportation, when you are no longer living in a car, um, and you are living on the streets, then it becomes more apparent. Of course, there are ways where you can disguise that too. Like, I don't dress homeless. In the beginning, when I was living on the streets, like in the beginning, it was apparent I was homeless because, I mean, in the beginning, especially when I'm living in the States, I didn't know where to get a shower at. And so, because I didn't know where to get a shower or anything, uh, yeah, I smelled like I was homeless. I smelled the part. And so I couldn't hide it. Yeah, yeah, I couldn't hide it. Anyone who walked by me or who I walked by, yeah, they got a whiff of that. So, but after I learned about where the facilities were, and I started having my showers regularly, and like I the clothing and everything, and was able to take better care of my appearance. Then I didn't look the part because I don't carry a lot of bags with me. But like I have my backpack and I have a bag, and some people can tell that I'm homeless. So when I first came here, like I said in the beginning, they knew, and you know what, there was no point. I didn't even I didn't even care, because at that point I wanted a shower. Like, the only thing really and truly I could think about was I wanted a shower, and I couldn't find where there was anywhere to have a shower. And then when I found out that there was a place where I could go have a shower, because they had cold weather for so many days, if they have cold weather at the shelters, they won't allow people from the outside to use their showers or any of their facilities the day after. So it kept getting postponed because they were having cold weather every day. And let me tell you, I was crying. Like, I literally was crying because, I mean, I'm a person who showers twice a day. Like, I'm used to showering twice a day. So it was from twice a day to like almost 3 weeks of not showering. Like, I was like Pepe Le Pew's girlfriend, let me tell you. So when I finally got that shower, let me tell you, I was singing when I left that shelter. But anyway, my point, I digress. My point is that it was obvious then. So, but when I cleaned up, um, when I cleaned up, and then when I started to not look homeless, that was the real test for me. And to some people, because I had the bags. So with some people could tell, like I said with the previous, when I was talking about being your true self and not being your true self. Some people are more perceptive than others. So some people, they saw the bags and they were aware. I could tell, by how they looked at me, that they were aware that I was homeless. And then there were other people who didn't know that I was homeless. And so I had decided that, like like there is shame in being homeless, but I said, you know what, this is what I am. I am homeless, and I'm going to own this. Like, I mean, for a while I was in shelters. So while I was in shelters, obviously, I mean, I was homeless, but it was a different kind of homeless. I wasn't, like I had a place to stay. So I could leave my belongings in the shelter. So when I went out, I just went out with my purse. So then no one knew that I was homeless. So, I had those periods in my time in my homeless journey where it was unapparent, simply because I had a place to where my belongings could be. But where I actually had to carry my belongings, that's when it became where it became more apparent. And I decided that even though, like, I would hear Satan say at times when I would go into the lines, like for lunches, or to get like they have like toiletry kits, or to get various things that these charities give to communities, and they have these events for the homeless community. And so I would attend these, and there were times I knew I didn't look homeless, and Satan would say, he would basically say to me, "What are you doing? You People are going to think that you're homeless. Like, you coming here, people are going to think you're homeless." And you know what? I just shook that off, and I said, "I am homeless," and I just kept going into those lines with the other people who were homeless just like me. I'm like, I'm not even going there. There were times when I would be like at the mall, or if I would be at uh, the drugstore, or like a grocery store, wherever, and I'd be making purchases. And when I make my purchases, it's more cumbersome because I have my knapsack, and I have my clothes in my knapsack, and then I have my bag. And sometimes I would see families, and I would see people who I could see are, like middle class, and, doing very well. And that shame would come over me. And you know what? When that shame came over me, I just said, "Paulette, you know what? You're homeless. They know you're homeless. There's nothing for you to be ashamed of." And I just shook that shameless feeling right off. I said, "I am not going to go there. I'm going to own this. I am homeless. I am going to own being homeless. I am not going to be ashamed of being homeless. I'm going to walk. Um, I'm going to walk in it. I'm going to be who I am." And I said I am just as good as these people. I am no less than any of these people just because I'm homeless and they're not. And so I just said, I refuse to let myself feel less than because I don't have a permanent shelter over my head and they do. I'm not going to let myself feel less than because of that, because I am not. And I am homeless. And if they can see that I'm homeless, that's fine. And if they want to look down on me because I'm homeless, that's fine. But I'm not going to make myself feel less, and I'm not going to try to cover up what I am to make myself feel good. And A, there's no way I could really cover it up. If they knew I was homeless, me feeling ashamed about it and trying to cover up in whatever way I would feel that I could cover up something where they can see, I can't cover it up. Like I like if I thought that my shame, me feeling shame for that moment, could cover it up and try maybe that they can't see this, or maybe they can't see the clothing coming out of my knapsack, they can still see. They can still see. So even though you think you're covering something up to cover up the shame, people usually can pick it up in just a second. It only takes a second. It only takes a glance. You don't have to stare at something. You don't have to focus on something to pick up on something. You can pick up something in a whiff, in a glance, in a second. So you really aren't covering up anything. You think you are, but you're not. So I just learned to say, I'm homeless. If they see I'm homeless, that's okay. If they think less of me, that's okay too. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. Most of the people who I have encountered do not look down on me. I'm going to be very honest with you. It has been such a surprise. In the beginning, I felt they looked down on me, and well, I was stinking. So they probably were looking down on me because I was stinking. And quite honestly, if I see someone, and this is a homeless person speaking here, if someone is like smelling like really like that homeless, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. So I did not hold that against anyone else who couldn't stand it. And I don't. I don't because I can't stand it as a homeless person. It's something I can't stand. So if they did look down on me, like, I mean, that's fine. But so in the beginning, but maybe even in the middle, I have had people when I, was presentable, but they could tell I was homeless. Maybe I've had a few, but not nearly as many as you would think. I've had people just look at me normal, like not look down at me at all. And if they were looking down on me, they hit it very well. And so I really don't believe that they look down on me. Like I just, that has not been the case with me. And that's the surprising thing, that people aren't looking at you in a negative light the way you think people are looking at you. Like when you're in that shame place, you think people are looking down at you in such a negative way, like because you are looking at yourself in such a negative way. So you think that because you're looking at yourself in such a negative way, that they are looking at you the same way you're looking at yourself. And so you're projecting your feelings onto somebody else. You're thinking because you're thinking that they're thinking that. And in most cases, they're not. And so, by me, it's so liberating to just not be. I'm not ashamed that I'm homeless. And by me not being ashamed that I'm homeless, it has liberated me and it has allowed me to free myself up to go to whatever kind of events I want to go without feeling any shame that people are going to see me. People who don't even know me, people who don't even care for me, are going to see me in these lines. Like they don't know me, they don't care for me. They're not even thinking about, oh, she's in that line with probably 100 other people. Like they're not even thinking about that. But when you're in a place of shame, it's like you put the spotlight on yourself and you think that everyone else is putting the spotlight on you too, and they're not. And so when you are place yourself in a place of shame, you also debilitate yourself into how you move and into the things that you will participate in and into the things that you would do. Because if I felt shame about being homeless, then I would say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to go to these events because I don't want anyone to see me there, because if they see me there, they're going to see that I am homeless. And so there would be so many benefits that I get from, like food and blankets and toiletries, like all these, things that help me. I wouldn't be receiving any of them because I would be too embarrassed to stand in a line with a group of people that are in the same situation I'm in. And so I have learned that my life, in whatever stage of life I am in, to embrace it. And so, like, if I am given lemons, just make lemonade with it. And that's exactly what I've done with the situation that I am in right now. I have made lemonade juice. with the lemons that I have been given. And it's been a very educational experience for me. I have learned a lot, I've gained a lot, and I have become like, well, it's given me more street smarts for sure. Never had that, got it now. I got the street smarts now. And I've become more comfortable with myself and yeah, just more comfortable with who I am as an individual because I really do not care to conform to what I think society says I should be because there is no template for how any of us should be. So just because 100 of us are this way, that doesn't mean all of us are supposed to be this way. Maybe there is supposed to be, like 5 oddballs on the other side. I mean, if everybody were made the same, the world would be a very boring place to live in. So to try and conform to be normal and to be like everybody else, especially when you're not, you're just doing yourself an injustice. So, and that is very prideful because then, like I said, you get into the lying and the covering up. Like you think it's pride almost in the sense that this is my life. I hate this life. I don't think that this life should be for me. So I'm going to cover this up and present myself as something that I think the world thinks is acceptable. And in doing that, you're still going to have many people who aren't going to accept you. And probably you're going to have more people who aren't going to accept you because they're going to smell the uh, inauthenticity in you. Like they're going to pick that up. Because it's really difficult to connect with someone who is inauthentic. And you do pick that up. We all pick that up. We know when we're dealing with authentic people. We know when we're dealing with inauthentic people. I think most people do know that when you're talking to someone, when you're connecting with someone, you can pick that up. And so when you're dealing with someone who is being fake and who is being pretentious and who is putting on a show and being someone they're not, there's no real connection there because you're not feeling like because there's no roots to where they're coming from. And pride is not about just the arrogance and being conceited and being like thinking that you're the creme de la creme, but is also shame and not being your true authentic self, trying to be someone you're not, trying to cover up who you really are. And God didn't create any of us to be prideful because pride in both, there's destruction in both. Destruction in both. Like it will, pride will destroy your life on both spectrums. And be it you're ashamed of who you are or you think there's no one like you. Um, God despises pride on all spectrums. He despises it just as much when you are insecure and when you're doing the whole cover up thing, because he didn't make you to be that. You are who you are. You are where you are. He can't work with you if you're trying to be someone else or you're trying to present yourself as something that you're not. He can only work with you at your true state and who you truly are, your authentic, true self. So I have a couple of verses that I'd like to read on pride. So the first one is, it's Proverbs 11:12. Let's just go here for a second. I should have wrote it down. But Proverbs 11. Okay. 11, sorry, Proverbs 11:2. Correction. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. And so, yeah. And that's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing that I was going to bring up with the whole pride thing. With pride, pride also, pride. Um, you're always right about something. Pride is you don't want to admit you're wrong. You don't want to say I'm sorry. Um, Somebody could come to you and they could express that they have a certain concern um, with you, and instead of hearing that person out because you're so prideful, that you deflect that by bringing out their flaws. So instead of staying on the topic, so if someone comes to you and says, you know what, like, I didn't appreciate how you said this to me the other day, instead of saying, oh, really, like, please share more, then you go, well, you know what, for 10 years you've been doing this to me and you've been doing that to me and blah, 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 blah. Because you are too prideful to face your flaws and what you did to the person. You cover it up by then pulling out their flaws instead of bringing that up 10 years ago or for the past 10 years that you've had this problem with them, but you've decided to say nothing about it until they brought up the concern with you. So instead of saying, okay, you know what, let's talk about this, show me, let me know, what it is that I'm doing, what it is that I've done, whatnot. You're too prideful because you can't take being wrong. You can't say, I'm sorry, because you're too prideful to say, I'm sorry, because by saying you're sorry is to say you were wrong. So before saying I'm sorry, before saying I'm wrong, before saying let's deal with this, I'm going to bring up some dirt about you, and hopefully we can cover the stuff, what you're trying to bring out about me. That's pride. That is pride. That is not humility. And and relationships, I mean, like, if these are the types of relationships that you're having where there's constant strife because constant arguments back and forth, someone's trying to talk in a meaningful way, but then like you have to come up and bring dirt up about them instead of trying to resolve, like, that particular concern that was brought up. That would be the right thing, to just deal with it one at a time. Then if you do have a concern about, for 10 years you've been doing so and so and so and so and so to me, bring that up at another time, but not at the time when the person has come to you first to bring up a concern. Because you doing that, then it's just strife, and then it's just more arguments, and then nothing gets resolved that way. So there are people who they're just living this life of constantly one-upping the other person, one-upping. I come to you with sincerity. I come to you because I want to resolve something. I come to you because I care about you and I want to make this work. And I see that you're doing something wrong. I'm not going to have you hurt me, but I want to resolve this with you. But you don't want to resolve it because you're too prideful. So that is pride in and of itself. So these, like, and you can go to God and pray to Him about these, because it's humility. It's being able to admit you're wrong, being able to be accountable for your actions and for the things you do, because none of us are